office toilet chair. I mean, just straight up.
It's got poo in the name.
Like, if it was even a munch card, I wouldn't fucking.
It's on brand. It's a sea monster. People were hitting each other with socks full of shit. We played a lot of WoW over the years. I think it's.
You could say that.
Yeah, no, I would hate to actually know the slash played like.
Oh yeah, no, dude, I don't want to know
to
that.
get an actual accurate, but you know, it's still nothing compared to some of the people that have never stopped. Like, I can only imagine what, and that's why I wouldn't ever try to get the measuring stick out with those people, because then you will never.
Okay, here's the point. Here's what I'm saying. It's kind of like this. After you've got a solid year of playtime, the rest is irrelevant. Like, that's it. You've gone past the like.
No, I agree with you.
Vast ocean out there.
Like, if you can eliminate idle time, then I agree with you. But I will also say there are people out there.
Solid playtime.
There will be people out there that will be like, a year is nothing. Like, and then they'll rage like silently.
Leland, they've been in the ocean so long that they've forgotten what it's like to be in society.
Yeah, that's true.
They're castaways now.
Yeah.
And this is the danger of the ocean. Like, you gotta swim to shore.
Yeah, dude. No, those people are too far gone in some cases. Well, it's interesting that you bring it up that way, because this is not what I was going to talk about originally, but I listened to a Bellular video a second ago, and they were talking about this, and I thought about it like this. Okay, so they were talking about, like, the whole Blizzard has just come out with a new chat channel that is for trade services. Blizzard doesn't want to have the boosting and the stuff that you buy gold with, like, or not buy gold with, but you would buy with gold, like boosting and like mount runs and shit that Blizzard doesn't like, but isn't necessarily trying to just 100% ban. They're trying to move all that stuff out of trade chat, because obviously Dragonflight is going to be so much more focused on professions that they want to have a separate space for all the annoying ass WTS, Sylvanas mythic mount boost, like, you know what I mean? Or boosting people in fucking Gladiator or whatever, right? Like, so you understand what I'm saying there?
Kind of a little bit, like.
I don't know if it'll work or not, because it truly, and this is what their point was, it'll come down to whether or not that gets enforced, because supposedly they fixed the WTS advertisements in the Dungeon Finder, in the LFG, but if you've ever looked at that recently, that has never been fixed, and it doesn't get fixed. Right?
Essentially.
So, taking it back to what you said a second ago about the water and people that are stuck out in the ocean, they're like, well, and they're 100% right. Like, they're like, oh yeah, Blizzard doesn't care about you enough to pay for GMs anymore. And like, they try to automate everything because we don't have their confirmation, but essentially, I mean, you think about it from a business perspective, like, it's like, you could imagine an executive being like, well, why in God's green earth would we want to spend money on like policing these nerds or these gamers, like, when we could just basically ignore that, like, for the most part, you know what I mean? They don't want to have GMs. And I was like, hey, it's like having a pool where you're like, oh, we don't want to have lifeguards. Like, we want to have an automated system that drains the water so that people don't drown, but we don't want to actually pay a lifeguard to sit there and stop people from drowning. And it's like, yeah, there are people that are out there and there are no lifeguards. Not that you're going to die, like, you know, from not having GM moderation, but I definitely think that any kind of MMO or a game like that suffers from a lack of moderation.
Like, lack of moderation, like, dude, when you say that, like, there's so much that comes with it. Like then when you say the words lack of moderation, I immediately like picture like what happens to my desk every once in a while with all the cans.
Okay. Sure.
Except there's actual blivet somewhere in the room. Like,
you know, I know what a blivet is, but
I'm saying, if you don't know, you need to look it up.
I don't know if you'll be able to find that. That was like our grandfather a long time ago told us.
Well, here's the deal. You need to find the Texas definition of a blivet.
They would fill a tube sock with shit and hit each other with it. Because it's the fucking Great Depression, and what else are you gonna do for fun? Now, having said that, if we ever actually did that, like, it would probably be funny until you got hit with a sock that exploded.
Oh no!
Or the kid shows up, like, you know, somebody like Noel Mutex, who is our mutual friend that you know that goes to DEF CON. Like, he would put like a weak water balloon in the balloon and fill it with like just liquid shit, and then like. So at first it would seem great until you hit somebody with it.
Or it accidentally busts in your.
Yeah. No, so hold on though.
The Great Depression, apparently playing with your own shit as a toy.
We're monkeys, are we not? Like we're
Mr. Hanky, the story's a lot more true.
So you said, why did you bring that up though? Like, what does that have to do with your desk and a lack of moderation?
Dude, these guys, like, when you're talking about the real lack of moderators who are talking about bragging about playing Beyond, these guys, they don't get up to really go to the bathroom. They will piss in old soda cups. They will shit in jars.
Oh yeah, like you're talking like Raid diapers or the what was it?
Or you ever seen
the pee bottles?
Show?
Yeah, dude, that's just ingenuity. Like, I pissed in a bottle in a car before, so like
you were trying to make time. Everybody's done that. Like, if you haven't, well, then you're just not trying to get.
Dude, if I was a world first raider, like. You know what? Like, I wouldn't make my team do that, but I'd be like, hey, if you were doing that and the next guy isn't, well, then that guy isn't wanting to be on the team as bad when it comes time to sort out raid spots. That's all I will say.
Fact, we send out a guild community slop jar.
A slop jar. Oh, God.
If you don't know what it is, look it up.
What is it with our country upbringing and shit that is like somehow we're already, oh my God. That's exactly what it sounds like also. Because you're not going to be able to Google these things. That's just a jar where you, that's Jankum in the making is what a slop jar is.
That's where that gets someone like either passed out and like
that's where Jacob came from. It was left out on accident.
Oh God.
Dad huffed Jacob and he didn't even realize he was so far ahead of his time, dude. I will never forget when I saw that on an episode of 1000 Ways to Die. Do you remember that one when it showed the guy who died? Like, I assume that's made up, but like you could imagine that it. Oh my God.
Yeah, dude, because it would take forever.
Okay, well, time out still. Like, so I understand how you're talking about the degeneracy that some people will go to when it comes to MMOs, which we both agreed that if your money was like a part of that as like a world first raider, or maybe not even just the money, but the competition. Like, if you want to win, like I said, hey, maybe a piss jar is what puts your team over the top. Like, and I could get behind that. Like, but. And maybe we need to make a line of gaming chairs where it has a toilet built into it. They probably make that already, don't they?
I mean, say, dude, well, I'm sure someone, like, I've actually seen a picture of one. Think about it.
Dude, when I was a kid, when I was in the 3rd grade, I had the idea. Huh?
Let me see if I can find that.
Dude, when I was in the 3rd grade, I thought I had a brilliant idea that I found out later on that NASA had implemented. And I basically was like mad that I felt like I was 10, but like I was like NASA stole my thunder. Like I was like, dude, what? I was just sitting on the toilet one day and I was like, at like 10, I was like, what if you had a toilet that like had a vacuum on it and sucked the crap out of you? And then I was like, I saw that NASA, that's how they, at one time at least, like was to help you deal with solid waste up in space. And
hold up here.
So this should be the gaming chair for world first raiders.
Dude, I think I've we got a couple here.
They have gaming chairs with toilets built in.
Well, they're not really gaming chairs. These are clearly just for shitting in the room.
Does it look comfortable?
No, sir. It does not look comfortable. It does not look.
You'll have to send me a link to this. Or what did you Google?
Office toilet chair. I mean, just straight up, dude. That's what I was looking for. I mean,
It sounds like I thought it was gonna be. Oh my god!
there it is. It's there. There it is. The fucking red one. It looks like a bucket seat from a freaking.
I see the one you're looking at, dude. That's gotta be like custom made.
Dude, it looks custom made. It's granulated as hell, dude. But,
Oh yeah, brought to you by Razer.
let's see.
What would you call it? If Razer made one, what would they call it?
If Razer made one, let's see. What? Okay, so like we gotta look at the previous names, like Anansi.
Everything is monsters. Everything is sea monsters. Like the Kraken.
No, the Kraken's already a headphone.
Oh damn! Well, this is the crack, like your butt crack. This is the butt Kraken.
Now you see, problem is we've already got crack. Snake has already been taken because there's literally a Razer snake, and I want one of those plushies. Razer, send me free plushie.
The Leviathan.
I think there's already one called the Leviathan. I think that's the name of their sound bar.
Cthulhu.
No, you can't call it Cthulhu.
The Cthulhu lives in the deep. He's a sea monster, and it's Cthulhu. The Razer Cthulhu.
You know, essentially the ocean is the world's toilet. Like,
it should be the Razer Cthulhu. Yeah, no, it is. It is a giant toilet.
I mean, dude, even the fish shit in it. Like, and they swim in it and breathe in it. Oh, look, dude, I think I found one I found one on Pinterest.
What?
Here we go. I'm sending you a link, bro. This is degeneracy. Like, this is what I'm talking about right here.
Okay, and
dude, Pinterest has some fucking awesome shit, dude. I hate to admit it, but dude, that shit's awesome.
It's just a social platform. I don't know why that would bother you.
I don't know. Like, I always thought they were supposed to be. I don't know, dude. I'm so out of touch.
It's mostly women that use it, yes, if that's what you're driving at. But like,
no, it had nothing to do with you. I thought it was just like.
Where's this link?
No. I mean, just hang on a second. The word I'm looking for here is I thought it was just like, you know, where girls would put like kind of like an Instagram or a failed Instagram.
Yeah, no, it's a big deal.
But yeah, no, dude, it's actually like they have like it's like either not really a small business because once again I don't feel like Pinterest is small. Like,
and if your girlfriend has one, it's a fantastic way to secretly figure out like Christmas gifts.
Okay, so like if I made shit, like, okay, so you telling me if I made shit, I can't sell things on Pinterest because I'm a dude?
No, Etsy would be where you would sell things if you were making them, or Shopify.
See,
Pinterest is more like a collection of things that you just. It's kind of like what Tumblr used to be, I think. I was never on Tumblr, but that's what
I'm saying. Dude, okay, I miss Tumblr. So
everyone does, from what I understand. I'm waiting on this link.
No, I'm when I say I missed it, I mean like.
Oh yeah, me too.
No idea it existed.
Yeah, me too. Ah, you found a better image of it.
Yes, this is the degeneracy. You see, that man is literally sitting above his own sick.
Sitting on a toilet.
I'm pretty sure there's degenerate women as well. There's degenerate and okay, spectrum. Because I'm gonna be honest, dude, I don't know how many there are. Well, that's not a place to really fall silent, you know? Like.
Oh no, I was just looking at this, and I was trying to think of a good pun for raiding and shitting.
Cthulhu, nah, dude, we gotta come up with a better name than that, dude.
It's got poo in the name.
Like, if it was even a munch card, I wouldn't fucking.
It's on brand. It's a sea monster. I could come up with something else.
All right, bro. So I've come up, like, I don't know if this is a term that exists in cooking, but I've come up with it myself if it doesn't exist, and I'm calling it chili cake. And it would be like, you know, what the foam and, like, I guess we're like from the fat, from the steak and whatnot.
Okay.
It's like kind of accumulated up into the top, rendered down.
Oh, you mean like like the film of, what is it called? What do you call that?
Yeah, like pond scum almost.
Yeah,
like,
no, there's a word for it.
Well, I call it chili cake. It looks like it. Like,
that's the good shit. It's the kind of shit when you're a kid, you're like, ew, but you're like, it's the kind of thing where dad, unfortunately, would be like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. That's the good stuff.
And then you would find out later when you grow up, he's like, damn, he was right.
Yeah, exactly. Man, I can't remember the name of what that is. It's like a film. Well, what you're telling it is probably better than what the actual name is. I know there's a word.
I was like, I'll be honest, like, if it's not something amazing at this point, like, you might as well not even tell me.
No, I think no matter what it is, it's not as good as what, and that's almost always the case.
Yeah, because I'm gonna be honest, dude. Raccoon is a name, but Trash Panda is the best. Like, I cannot get over that.
Yeah.
And I don't really care for Danger Noodle for Snake.
Oh yeah,
I was fine with Snake.
dude.
Like,
It's
I was Snake.
Danger Noodle is like doggo, like or
Dude,
pupper
dude.
or pupper.
But I really like it. Like, there needs to be a degree of, like, I don't even know. We can't really say maturity there because I just doesn't need.
Yeah, we're just talking about shitting in your chair, so like, and hitting people with socks full of crap.
You know what's funny is we didn't do this, but apparently the ones that raised us did.
It's because and we're the problem. Like,
Problem.
we were screwed from the get-go when you're raised by people who are hitting each other with socks full of shit
Like, Jesus.
and keeping their feces and their urine in jars all throughout the house. Obviously, that's not exactly what a slop jar is, but that's basically what it is.
So it was literally the first 20 to 30 minutes of this conversation has been.
Hey, like, life will always revolve around. I remember getting in trouble when I was little for just making a bunch of like bathroom humor. Like, and it's like, when will that ever not? And here we are at 30 years old.
You say, dude, if it stops being funny, I have died on the inside.
That's the same. I'm like, if farts and stuff like that ever stop being funny, then I'm done. Like,
Yeah,
I will be like, you know what? Like, you guys, it doesn't have to be a tragedy. It's just like, hey, man, I don't care to live anymore. So like, I'll say goodbye to everyone, and you can take me out in the yard like an old dog, and you can shoot me in the head.
Well, I guess I have to get something bigger than a 22.
No, that'll work. You just do it in the right spot. Like,
nah. Because I'm gonna
yeah, I mean, honestly, if you're gonna shoot me and put me down that way, like, shoot me now. I do not have to shoot you. He does not have to shoot you now.
Yeah, if I'm putting you down, I'm making sure you don't get back up at all.
We'll duck season, wabbit season, and that will be, we'll Bugs Bunny it.
So I'm going to end up dead in the situation.
If you're not careful. So it's funny also, like, I wanted to come back to that, but like, since you were talking about, since we kind of got on the subject of world first rating, this is really what I wanted to talk to you about. But I still need to fully understand what you meant by the,
complete degeneracy.
yeah, so like what your problem with the moderation, like, because I didn't really get your point about like whether you.
It's kind of like the speedrunner. You're not like, you're literally looking for, well, like, they will use any means necessary. So it's like you're even looking for ways to break the game.
Yeah, right. Any percentage runs, right?
Yeah. Like, so much so that even like the tips and tricks that you would learn from them could possibly be trouble for you. Because, like, for example, look at Preach. Preach got into trouble because essentially of a trick that came from world first raiders.
They're not trying to ban anybody at this point because their numbers are so low.
My one is like, there's always posts about people getting banned over ridiculous shit right now.
Well, sure, but I just mean like their numbers, they've had the opposite problem. They're trying to get people to come back. They're giving away Shadowlands for free with a level 50 boost. If you had WoW before you, before this, you can't get it now and benefit from it. You had to be a WoW player before, but you also had to have not played, like any Shadowlands. Like, so they're basically specifically targeting players that they want to return. Their numbers are so low based on what people can see. And this is actually interesting. Like, it seems like there's like multiples of people more playing TBC Classic in getting ready for Wrath Classic than there are playing retail. Like, I don't want to get too much into that.
I guess people get to transfer their 60s over from the servers.
Yeah, they're still gonna get to. They're gonna get to like.
Okay, so
they're gonna have fresh start servers as well.
What's gonna happen, right?
They're gonna a lot of things.
Squad.
Yeah, and why wouldn't they?
There's gonna be people like, oh, I really liked WoD. I'll be like, oh, did you now? So, like, here's my view of the question. There's two realities right now because there's two Gul'dan. And it's even more than that because of all the time traveling.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's more than that. There's definitely more than that.
Yeah, dude, because every time you do Durnhold or, like, Black Morass or, any of the caverns of times instances, every time you enter there, even if you don't complete it, just the act of entering it would cause a split. So, there's so many splits.
Okay.
And this is good. There's going to be an R rating here. Just fuck damn shit, motherfucker.
Yeah. I don't think anybody's worried about that shit. Hang on, let me note this. Time is when we
clam slobber.
Well, okay, time out though.
Anal grease geek.
You still, every time we bring it up, we get sidetracked. What were you trying to say when you told me a lack of moderation? Is that good or bad? Is what you're saying?
Dude, a lack of moderation depends on the style of game you're playing. For World of Warcraft, lack of moderation is bad.
Okay. I think I see what you're saying. You're talking about people that aren't doing things. You're talking about people that aren't doing things in moderation. When you bring up the degeneracy of world first.
That moderation.
No. I meant literally GMs. There's no GMs, and that makes everyone suffer.
Yeah, because dude, there's a lot of small things that they take care of that little tickets. Bug fixes, items not working, quests busted, they're there to help out in that kind of stuff. And then when they're not there, and it's basically based off this ticket system, and it's an automated one, which really doesn't do
anything, basically.
Yeah.
You cannot let the internet go unmoderated in something like a live service like World of Warcraft, where you're
otherwise you end up with Moonguard.
Well, yeah, which is a whole nother issue.
Yep, but we'll not. That's a different kind of degeneracy.
Oh yeah. In the topic of the world first raiders, which is what was related to what I wanted to talk to you about yesterday.
I wish I could remember where the fuck I was going.
Yeah, I do too. But I think I see your point. But you originally brought up your desk and things piling up on the desk.
Well, that's what you're just describing the degenerate we're talking about. This is when you say that into the World of Warcraft community, they know who you're talking about. I mean, even South Park got that gist of it and made a character of their own that basically idolized. There was that
he who has no life.
Yeah, that which had no life, as foretold by Saul's.
In the counting.
It's that kind of situation. That's the person you're talking about.
The people that have been playing and think a year of playtime is nothing.
Yeah. That's the only person who's going to scream about that, because everybody else, it's once you've gone past a solid year of playtime.
And let's be honest, that crowd, you cannot make happy, period.
No. Nothing well, because, dude, they know they can't go back. And it's kind of what our parents did to us. It was better back in my...
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And honestly, that's part of the reason we're nah, that's why I play Shadowlands.
Yeah, go play Classic and
just sit in the old folks, okay?
Which is much bigger than retail is, at least right now. When Dragonflight comes out, I know that will change. So yesterday, I watched this video that where Ion Hazzikostas did an interview with Max from Max Limit or Liquid or whatever their World First team is called now. Mm-hmm. And that was interesting because, number one, it made me think okay, you're taking someone, everyone has agreed, WoW has way too often been developed and balanced around a percentage of these people in the World First race, right? Which they should never do. I think everyone agrees, except for World First Raiders. So we're on the same page about that.
And honestly, they really don't get anything.
Well, they make a lot of money because they spend a shit ton. I don't know if you've looked into what they spent on split runs. Basically, because of the way the loot system worked, they would pay people to basically give them their lockout or their heroic runs to funnel loot to their World First team. And that's what everyone does. And they spent literally thousands, tens of thousands of dollars when you consider the WoW tokens that they spent on this. And they also promised people mount Sylvanas mythic mounts.
Okay,
and boosting people.
Outside of getting paid for streaming, the doing World First and stuff like that.
Which is where they basically make their money from that event.
Yeah, which means dude, which seems the complete opposite of the people who are in this industry. The whole point is to not be scrambling to get to work and living on a schedule like that. Like,
Well, and that's the funny part is that it flips and then it becomes your life, right? Like when
like literally.
Well, and that's interesting that you bring that up because that will come into play here in a second. But the first thing I thought when I saw this interview was I was like, should you ever, this is the first time this guy has, I was surprised to hear this is the first time he's ever met Ian. And it's the first time he'd ever gotten to, Blizzard like spreads their interviews around. They've always let someone else, like I could think of like 5 or 6 different WoW creators, including Asmongold and Preach both, and some others that have gotten to do interviews with Ian. Like, so I think they've done a good job of spreading that around. But I'm like, should you ever let a world first raider do it because they are so far removed from the rest of the player base that it's like, can they even ask questions objectively? And some of that came into play with some of the questions that he asked. And I basically took notes from the interview, so we don't have to go over everything that he said, but there's a few things that I think are interesting. And I also want to preface this by saying, you and I most recently have not been doing any hardcore content. We haven't been playing Mythic Plus anymore, and we haven't been raiding. But when Shadowlands first came back...
Bro, I was pushing arenas.
Excuse me, I take it back. You were pushing arenas. I haven't been doing any since 9.2. But we did both do up to heroic raiding in Castle Nathria because our guild was a mess.
As is tradition.
As is tradition. Yeah, that was fantastic.
Remember, you have to soak the Annihilate.
You've got to everyone's got to soak Annihilates on Zymox in Castle Nathria. It's tradition. Like, so we were doing that and we cleared normal, but who didn't, you know, normal is normal. Like, but we were doing also pushing Mythic Plus with me running tank and you running DPS. So like, and that was incredibly frustrating. Like,
yep.
All that to say though is like, and the vast majority of people in WoW, when it's not at a time like this, when there's people playing WoW, I don't know exactly the numbers, but I don't think most people even get to what is hardcore content. I think the majority of WoW's player base, when they have a player base, is casual. Does that sound right to you? I don't have numbers to back that up, but I think that's probably fair to say. So that makes me wonder in the first place, I'm like, is it even a good idea? Not to say that you can't let a world first raider, because I've seen Maximum's videos before, like Max Limit, they do make good videos, but I'm like, I just wondered how the questions that he was going to ask would be compared to like a regular WoW player. He's doing this interview. And funny enough, all of his questions did seem to be at first centered around raid content and how it was like accessible or not. And at one point he asks Ian, like, is a mythic lockout outdated? Like, is that something that we shouldn't have anymore? And Ian basically told him, so what I'm hearing is you want to do more splits and more mount selling. In other words, like, oh, you guys want to, as a world first raider, y'all want to be able to farm, y'all want to have less restrictions to get your gear faster and to sell more mythic mounts. Like, which I thought was funny because I was like, that's probably true. Like, even if he won't admit it.
Yeah, dude, like, here's the deal. That, like, whatever they're doing on the side, like, I know when you say selling mythic mounts, I'm going to be honest, it sounds like pretty shady. Some pretty shady shit.
Dude, I'm going to be honest.
It's like, isn't everybody, like, wanting to ban runs that you pay for?
That's what I'm saying. That's why they're taking that boosting services and they're putting it in its own separate channel. So you don't have to, supposedly, it's not going to be moderated heavily, probably. So it honestly won't matter. That's what I was saying at the very beginning. Is like, but like, I'm with you if that's what you're saying. I hate the idea of people, and you can't stop it, but I hate people getting boosted for PvP because you have people with PvP mounts that are not gladiators, like, and you can't stop that. You have people that get boosted to Mythic Keystone Master because they get carried. You can't stop that.
Yeah, I'm going to say, dude, to be honest, the truth is, if it comes down to it, I'm going to get my gladiator mount and I'm going to get my savage saddle at some point. Might not be the end of this year, although I really think I am going to get it.
And by you mean like that, just so you understand, he's saying that...
No, hear me out. I don't, like,
you're going to get it the right way.
What anybody else is writing. Like, when it comes to like the situation of people selling, unless they're willing to actually to put on a show that they can do the actual like walk the walk, because that's just talk and talk. You know, if you never see them outside of a capital city, guess what? Odds are they ain't shit outside of.
No, I agree.
Everywhere they went.
And to clarify, when you say you're gonna get it, you mean you're gonna get it the right way.
I'm getting
exactly.
Like, I'm earning mine.
Exactly.
And that's all I care about.
Exactly.
I know I got it. So
and to me, that shit is worthless. Like people always make the argument, they're like, oh, well, shit should be exclusive because it's like, well, it's worthless when you look at it and you're like, yeah, they probably just got boosted for it. You know what I mean?
The point to exclusive is for you to have it and someone else not.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, that's just not a good setup.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that stuff like in the first place, and I don't really care what everyone's opinion is.
It's like what Otaku did, you know, like the world, the raid, you know, the world boss, the shadow priest that was considered his own.
Oh, you mean the I know what you're talking about. The guy that was he deserves something of his own that no one else had. Well, and when we first played decades ago, when you saw Thunder Fury, like it was like that. Basically, right? Like
yeah, because that took 40 people to get.
And it was like, oh shit, there's that guy. Like, you know what I mean? It was like, and that's just gone. Like
also being someone, who does in content rating, you also know what went down, get Thunder Fury.
Right.
It was not an easy thing, and it was a lot of bullshit.
Well, and this comes back.
People who left that guild over it.
Yeah, exactly. There's always drama. And yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because that's what Asmongold said that one time, and I think it's 100% true. He was talking about, he's like, oh, you see people with Shadowmourn, and now, oh, yeah, that person was just friends with the GM. It's like, and you listen to Drama Times with Preach, and you're like, yeah. It's like you could just hear the literal stories. Oh yeah, we were just screwing people over left and right. Like
it was a nice idea, but it does not apply with humans because humans are fucked up humans.
Which is why, like on the subject of like people getting mad about Master Looter being gone, it's like, yeah, but that's what people want it for. Like not everyone.
Yeah, no, because they want to be Nazi.
Exactly. Like not everyone, but yeah, they do. They want like there's a lot of people out there that it's like if Master Looter comes back. People are gonna ninja loot. Like it's gonna happen.
Yeah,
like
personal loot was one of the best things that happened to the game.
Which is also why, well, that's a very like people don't like that. There's a lot, at least the people that they're vocal about that. Like, and I'm with you because it's like, you know what?
If I have the ability to trade my personal loot or sell it, that's even better.
Now that's the way it should be, because then you can give it away if you want to. But like, you don't have to worry about getting in a pug and getting the Eye of Divinity or the Eye of Shadow, whichever one it was that was, and then you're like, hey, by the way, that's supposed to be for reserved. It's like, no, bitch. Like, I won the roll. It's mine.
If you're going to do something like that, it needs to be something like, they would need to have something like a guild hall that you could go to. And the only things that would require like those kinds of drops would be aesthetics for your guild hall, something that is for your guild and with something that shows the, that server.
Which also solves the Shadowmourn problem. Like, cause you're like, oh yeah. We did that on purpose.
That loot still exists. And it's something that your guild is going to want to run for. And it's going to be something because it's going to have bragging rights.
Yeah, and if it was built in, you don't have the Drama Time stories because you're like, yeah, no, we did that. Yeah. We decided as a guild.
Like, there might be the honor of one person has to have all the items in their inventory. So someone might get to be voted to carry all the items. But other than that, there's no extra benefit for it. Like, they're not going to get an achievement. They're not going to get. Like,
no, I'm with you. And I think also, like, that is why it goes back to that same issue of the GMs earlier. It's like, that's part of what it is. Like, Activision Blizzard, whoever is up top in charge, they don't want to pay GMs to sort out loot disputes. You know what I mean? Like, so that's part of why they try to automate everything. So, like, I think if it comes down to it, personal loot is better because you don't have that bullshit, but you should be able to trade it if you want to.
Never join a guild that says they have rights over your person.
Yeah, exactly. That's on you to be able to say,
Yeah.
hey, like,
Yeah, you just say no.
you don't join a run if you know, and maybe that's the real problem. Is it's like, well,
Now if they make a deal for you, come say, hey, we're looking for this shield off this boss. We want to pay you this amount for your drop if it comes by. And if you agree on those terms, I feel like, now, unless till the payment happens, nothing's set in stone. If that shield drops and he hasn't already received the gold, then he gets to keep the shield. Now, if you pay money and he runs off with that shit, now that should be reportable.
it's hard to design a system around that because people can, if they want to, they will game it in some way.
Well,
But
there should be an in-game item that's created, like a voucher.
yeah,
Like,
I agree. It should be a system of some kind that, like,
yeah, there should be a way, like, and that would be another thing for inscriptionists to, do, like, but once again, you really need to be something ready available to the player without a reagent cost.
well, I liked your idea about, like you said, of if it's for like the cosmetic items, like the Shadowmourns, basically. It's like, oh no, it's a guild system where it's like, where there's no like dispute about, it's like, no, it's set up this way. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't know exactly what that would look like, but I agree that would be the better way. But it was just funny because when he said this,
Like, it would be basically adding boss loot and personal loot back. Like, there is a boss loot, but the boss loot is going to be something that is, aesthetic. So it's not going to be something that, and it's going to be for the guild. Once again, bring it back to, like, you would need a guild hall or something that would to make it really good in effect. And then have rewards like when you do earn those guild hall pieces that get like certain items earned for your player home to put in your, like, so even if the guild breaks up, you always have something that shows, hey, at one point this is your trophy, and it should always be a miniaturized version of that.
That would be really cool. That's a good idea, actually.
Because that's what achievements should really come down to, because it's nice to have that little tab with a little +10 and a number.
Something to remember it by.
Yeah. But it's even better when they have trophies associated with them.
There should be souvenir items, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's what Steam does in Steam VR. Like, all the games that you play, you can earn little in-game avatar items to deck out. I've got Island 359 Tyrannosaurus Rexes as like the lion statues on the edge of the railings in the middle of Luigi's Mansion in the middle of Gotham City.
Oh, yeah, in your VR. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I got you.
I also have a backup desktop. It's Lake Hylia.
Oh, I love that one. That one is really cool. Yeah. It's really cool to walk around Lake Hylia in first person. But
it's on the Halo ring.
Yeah. I remember. You looked up and you see the Halo. That was sick.
Hey, hang on a sec, bro. I'm really getting paranoid about my chili.
Okay, go try it.
It's gonna be good when you just lean over and smell it and your eyes start watering.
Oh yeah. You've made it spicy though. I like spicy, but I think you might have gone super hard.
Well, I've one of my own mixtures.
No, I know. You told me about it last time with the habaneros and the jalapenos, and both of those. The habaneros especially. That's a hot chili. Dude. Well, I just thought it was funny that like Ian said, oh, so you guys want to have more split runs, basically to funnel gear and more mount selling. And he was like, oh, no, that would be terrible. And I was like, bringing it back to what you said earlier when you're talking about how, hey, originally this was supposed to be like something that you did to avoid the regular work life, and then eventually you become chained to your computer because you're like having to do this world first race degeneracy, which also it's important to point out. I don't know if this is true for you, but it's like I have never really watched any of that. I've kept up with it one time, like when they were doing the Sanctum of Domination or whatever. I knew that I was aware that it was going on because of Reddit, but I've never actually like watched a stream from the world first race or any of that. I'm not like super interested in that stuff. I do think that something that they got to at the end of the interview would make that stuff potentially more interesting to someone like me. When you said, oh yeah, this is like ironic that they end up doing this, I'm like, yeah, that's what he tried to say. And I do believe him when he says that, when he's like, listen, I think it'd be the worst thing in the world to hear my guy go, okay, get up, we got to do 12 hours of boosting people for the mythic mount, like because they helped us funnel loot or whatever. But so basically he kept asking questions about raid comps and like what is or isn't necessary. He was talking about everything in terms of like, oh, well, you had to bring, there was like 7 classes that were like must brings. And he was trying to ask questions about like bringing the player versus bringing the class. You know what I mean by that? Like when they're trying to figure out their raid comp. And again, this is all talking about people that play optimally. Something that I think Ian actually got like perfectly right for once, because I was saying this stuff along. You keep asking about, oh, well, you have to, need to, necessary, optimal runs. And it's like, dude, a very small percentage of the game actually gets that meta with it. You know what I mean? That's eventually what everything funnels down to. And that's what ruins the game and makes it less fun, is when people are like, oh no, we don't want to take you because we want a Vengeance Demon Hunter for our Mythic +10 run or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, but Ian was like, listen, you keep asking like what's necessary or what's needed. He's like, we don't design the game to be that way. He asked a question at one point about like, oh, well, you were trying to decide if you bring DKs to stack anti-magic zones or to have as many anti-magic zone like buffs as possible for certain fights. And he's like, we try to make it to where Ian saying, where it's like, oh, well, here's reasons why you would want to bring a Death Knight or here's the value that a Warlock brings. They don't want it to be like, oh yeah, you're going to put 6 balanced druids and everyone convoke. You know what I mean? Like, I thought it was
they don't want a set strategy. You need this amount of druids, this amount of mages.
Yeah. Which is good, I think, to not want it to be that way. Like, because that's lame as fuck. Which is why in the first place, I'm like, can you even have a world first raider do an interview like this? Because it's like, hey, there's questions that the whole player base wants to hear, and everything that he's going to ask is going to be focused on, well, how does this affect us? And I like, that's how it was at first, but I do think he did get to some questions that were more applicable to everyone, more relatable. But he was saying, you know, like, oh, you know, everyone is on the side of the game should not be designed around the world first race. And like, I think it was good to hear Ian say, oh, we're not designing around what is, quote, needed. And he said, you know, Ian was like, well, we think normal is basically for people that want to just finish the raid and want to play with their friends and don't necessarily want to play with people that they don't know. They're not pugging members unless they have to. Like, heroic, he says, is supposed to be like a challenging pug. It's like something that you could do puggable if you wanted to, but it's harder than normal. And like mythic is not designed to be something that you would pug, like, which I think is fine. If you're going to get to the mythic level, it's like, yeah, that's probably going to be.
You have a set strategy that works for your comp and your guild.
Exactly.
Right?
And I think that it is a problem that guilds have gotten as like apply like it is a literal job with a resume nowadays. Like, I'm not crazy about that, but if you're going to go on mythic level rating, maybe that's acceptable. Like, or is something that like, hey, like that's not for everybody. He's like, it's more fun for them to design around, hey, what big plays would be possible if you play I remember when you would play with us when we would do Mythic Plus and you would drop some of those darknesses that would save a Mythic Plus run at times. You know what I mean? Because you knew when to use your darkness as a Havoc Demon Hunter, right?
Yeah, it's basically the point of like where we have to stack. You know, I know that they just need to get around some damage that they're not going to dodge because they're going to stand in the fire.
It allowed you to be good to make up for someone else's mistakes or misplays.
Well, and that brings down to what really needs to come down to change for World of Warcraft. There needs to be a new role introduced,
like a support role.
Exactly. There needs to be a role that basically shifted. It would be like, you know how they have power, you choose who gets your power infusion, right?
Right.
Turn power infusion into a mechanic that is consistent throughout the game. You're going to support what you need the most right now. There's a lot of boss mechanics going on right now. Tanks need buffs to get, to really eat up some of those stacks or, for all the switch. Or, we're doing a part where we're like having to dance and people are taking splash damage for stuff, shift support over to the healer, shift is casting that way. And honestly, should be the role that your guild master should be playing. Like, I'm going to be honest, because you should be like.
Leaders do that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Like, and there needs to be a few places to do it. And I don't think they need to add a new talent for Druid. I think Druid just should not get any more talents whatsoever. They already have like 4 or 5.
You mean like a new spec?
Yeah, they don't need anything new. I'll be honest, I don't think Druid should get the support. Like
I think honestly, I think that Druid would be good for that. If here's the thing is like people call a concept called no, just stick with me for a second.
Think about Druid is everywhere.
No, I'm with you. I know. I'm not trying to make it about Druid specifically. I'm just saying like
hate posts about
no, I know, man, I know, but that's like getting too too focused. Like what I'm saying is like people, you've heard of the term, or maybe you haven't. You're familiar with it, even if you haven't heard it. It's like people talk about a hybrid tax, where there's like, if you're a class that is a hybrid, you're not going to do any of them as well. So it's like, maybe these hybrid classes like Paladin, like Shaman, like Druid, like Monk, maybe even, like, maybe this is where they fit in with this support role, where it's like, okay, maybe they're not the best at any one thing. They
would need to be switching talents on the fly, and that's the issue.
Well, maybe that is their spec. Like you said, it's like, no. You don't have a DPS Druid. Your role is entirely based around like being a support. I think that's kind of what you're getting at.
Okay, so you're basically calling it like stem cells that follow the raid that just amalgamously switch into what you need at that moment.
Well, that's what I'm hearing.
You see that, and that's one way to play. Me personally, I wouldn't like that because
I don't think most people would. I don't think most people would.
Is really bad play.
Well, and that's what I was going to say too. Is it's like honestly, the place that stuff does better is in a lower skilled run in the first place. Like once you get to the higher end content, that's when you have to start optimizing. But that's the whole problem with WoW. Like, is that like?
Right. And I kind of like the way it's set up for them now. If whatever spec they're in, like if they're running Boom Chicken, then it's almost pointless, other than trying to use one or two abilities they need in bear form. They're not really going to sit in there too long,
Yeah, no, and no, I wasn't trying to say that. I'm saying like I was getting at. It sounds like I liked your idea when you said, "Oh, there should really be another role."
Also, another thing that should be healers should only be allowed to receive 45 to 50% from their own heal.
Are you talking more like PvP stuff now?
No, I'm talking about even PvE. They should not be allowed to heal themselves as much as they heal others. It should be a special.
Well, if they're doing that, something is wrong from the get-go, because the healer shouldn't be taking as much damage.
You have the healer tank.
Well, yeah, but like that's not usually what happens anymore.
Yeah, you see, and like there shouldn't be no such thing as Charmin play.
Yeah, Yeah. Well, Paladin is a whole issue right now for that reason.
Well, now you see that would also change how Paladin works, because that would basically take Paladins away to heal others, and they can only self.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm saying is like Paladin is an interesting subject because there's
Paladin is not set up like, and I know people are like, oh, tradition. I'd be like, yeah, but there's a reason why it was set up that way, because it was actually more versatile back then. And I'm not talking really about World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft's idea.
Yeah, you're talking about like D&D, like a Paladin as an idea.
Yeah, you're either big slaps, big bandages, or you get slapped.
Well, and that's why I say it's interesting that you bring up Paladin, because Paladin is we could do a whole segment on Paladin in general right now, because Dragonflight, like people are upset. Like it's really just a few different big points. WoW has a problem.
Not big bandages.
No, WoW has a problem where their plate classes only really take disadvantages because of their lack of mobility. Like the wheelchair classes should be the ones that hit the hardest, and it's like, oh, you need to stay away from them, but they don't work like that. Like because
and that's why, because Paladin is a wheelchair class, right? It's one of those, unless you're speccing into Divine Steed, and even once again, after you use those, you're basically sitting.
Well, and that's what people are upset about now, because Divine Steed got boosted in Shadowlands, and it's getting nerfed in Dragonflight, and so people are mad because they're like, well, that's all we had. And they also are saying that there's supposed to be a caster paladin, but it's not really working the way it should, because you still have to go up and Crusader Strike as part of your rotation. And it's like,
caster paladin, that's a priest.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you. I'm like, people want caster paladin. Well, it's like, why are they a plate class if you want them to be a fucking, yeah, like it's like that.
Yeah. I could understand Arcane Warrior. I get that. Like, but I don't understand.
Evoker should maybe fit there. Like that should maybe be the third evoker spot eventually, to me.
No, Evoker's going to be fine where it's at.
No, I'm not saying it will or won't. I just mean it's like you're talking about an arcane warrior.
Like before we start giving Evoker like a tank spec, it needs to get in the game and like.
No, I agree. I just meant like when you're talking conceptually about an arcane warrior, I'm like, well, that could fit in there in the future.
Or just, if you want to do that, just give priests the ability to wear fucking plate.
Well, I'm like you. It's like, well, why are you separating priest from paladin if you're going to have them do each other's thing? Like,
well, you see, now that's what I've been wanting to say. Remove holy altogether. Take it out of the game.
Holy paladin.
Holy paladin. No, spec. Take holy out. And then switch it to what I would call vanguard. It would be a spec that is based off kind of like ret, where it's dealing damage, but you need to be dealing damage next to your party, because when you deal damage, it basically causes a buff out to all of the surrounding allies.
So like kind of the way the shaman healing ring works a little bit.
A little bit, but everything's more based off.
Everything is aura based like it was originally.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you crit.
Because that's Warcraft.
Everybody gets a speed buff increase.
Exactly.
When you because it's like gaining momentum.
Yeah.
When little things like that.
I'm with you 100% on this. But then what people would do is they would just
cause a stun. It increases the damage of all your nearby allies to do 15% more damage. Call it opportunity doesn't wait.
Well, and this is the problem that WoW has with design, is it's because now you've got a situation where it's one of two things. Either everyone's going to bring 6 paladins and that stuff stacks, or it's only one, and then it's like, okay, well, paladin is, and again, no, I think I'm with you. It's like, this is like, hey, this is a reason to bring a paladin, but what that will end up being, because
no, cooldowns are how you solve that, because you may want that damage buff 3 times in a row.
So now it's like anti-magic zone, kind of.
Well, no, it's like...
No, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying, like, that's the reason to bring multiple multiple DKs for a while in Sanctum of Domination, was because it's like...
But it's more involved than just the 2 minutes.
Right. I got you.
It's something that's going consistently with rotation.
Yeah, that's what I mean, is you're using a rotation of the players, like, and coordination with not popping them all at the same time.
Not only are y'all rotating, like, you and your allies are rotating in ways that that play off each other. Those 3 Vanguard are doing a separate rotation of their own on top of that rotation.
And the cooldown is not like heroism where it's shared. It's like, hey, the skill is in not popping them all at the same time.
No, it's like the skill is knowing
and coordination.
Yeah, and everybody recognizing where you're at.
It's like an interrupt rotation. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's really good. I think that would work. And I think that's honestly what Paladin, even in Warcraft 3, was like based on with the auras.
Well, no, Paladin still kind of works to the classic concept of what they think a Paladin is, which is just an invincible knight. And that's not like, that's devotion Paladin.
Or like, yes, or proc, basically. Divine protection, like. Yeah.
In the olden days, kiddies, what we called it was devotion. And now they do call retribution by the right name, because you don't need to switch that name. Slap them if they did. Although, like the Vanguard, I would honestly...
I mean, that could be your prot.
No, Vanguard isn't prot. Vanguard is like, it's more
support.
like an officer role.
A field commander.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Him being, it's like, he's almost like, kind of like does what a hero unit does, like in...
like almost like a warrior's shouts. Yeah.
He has an aura. He
exactly.
boosts everybody around him, And that's also another reason, like, you could have like 3 different Vanguards who themselves like have different, like maybe they've gone different talent choices. One has a different presence than the other one does.
Well, and this is how you get back to, you're going to have 6 paladins in every group or every raid, because
one makes them feel invincible. One makes them feel unstoppable. And the other just is reassuring.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think that's actually some really good points. And Paladin is in a spot either way.
And you see, that right there completely alters not only the entire game, but that one class. And now that we've instituted that, we can now start instituting other changes. Like, for example, Shaman should be another one that does this.
Yeah.
Shaman should be like, their enhancement spec should be like all totem play.
Well, and that's where you get into, like, they are that ranged paladin that you want, because they can drop their totems and then stand back and cast. Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
And he's wearing metal shiny.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
We know that's why you want it. You want to look metal shiny. You want to look sparkly. We get it. Everybody wants to look shiny super.
Well, the plate class thing about them being, because like DK is the same way. It's like, well, as a DK, everyone should want to get away from me. And it feels bad when you're like, oh, I'm standing toe to toe with the rogue because the rogue has a million things.
So let's for a second, let's talk about Death Knight. Let's talk about some changes for Death Knight.
They're making some good changes for Death Knight for Dragonflight, apparently.
Kind of a change up in like how the class should handle. Like Unholy shouldn't be like really just summon necromancy. Like Unholy should be more of a it should still have all that in there, but it should be more of like
disease.
More things like not disease, not really.
Not plagues.
Disease is like I don't associate Unholy with disease. Those two don't go together.
Well, you're talking almost like Fell then.
Well, no, Fell I consider completely different on its own.
Well, sure, but that's what I'm saying. When you say Unholy, I think it is a necromancer, basically.
Done so well that they've created what I would consider a new element of magic.
Yeah, with like chaos and stuff.
Exactly. Like, you know how, chaos isn't Unholy. Like, there is Unholy in Warcraft.
No, right. I mean, I'm just saying, if you're not calling it necromancy, then what? And it's not plagues, then what is it?
Honestly, I would call it like Unholy is like almost like an aspect of fear itself. Like, the monsters that come from it.
Okay, so what would that be though? Like, then you're not talking about.
That would depend on the race. Every race of Death Knight would have different looking Unholy spells of what would be considered.
Well, that would be amazing, but.
Exactly. Like, for example, for Draenei, it would be like Varghese and whatnot, Memories of the Legion. Or for like the humans, it would be Memories of
Vrykul.
Maybe one glyph would show Vrykul.
Yeah.
Another glyph would show the orc monsters, like giant kodos devouring people.
Okay, so you're not talking like your problem with you're just like, oh well, let's rethink how DK's
more of a scarecrow type spec. You know what I'm saying?
So like a shadow priest kind of.
Exactly. Like
a lot of horrors and fears.
Exactly. More fears, more not really corruption, but like.
See, when I think Unholy, I think like if I'm not gonna call it plagues or necromancy, then I'm like, well, it makes me think of vampires, but that's kind of blood.
You need it. Let's real quick break down Unholy and Holy. Holy is security. Unholy is the feeling of.
Well, see, I think WoW has a place for this basically in their universe, and that's what Void is.
Let me step down another
level. That's like Void, though, is what I'm saying.
One feels unsafe.
Which is where Void comes from, basically, in this space. And I know it's different from what you're talking about.
What I would say is confusion and uncertainty.
Sure.
That, I would say, is a completely different thing.
Void is supposed to be like, it's like a Lovecraftian. Everything is you're going nuts all the time. Like,
exactly. Like, there's never an equilibrium. It's
tentacles and madness. Like
exactly consistency.
It's the Cthulhu Razer toilet chair because you shit yourself.